last week I went to a sort of event, and the moderator didn't introduce themselves, and I spent the whole time thinking, who are you? So I'm from the UK, and I've worked in the internet industry for the past 16 years. I worked for 10 years as the head of legal and policy at the .UK Registry, and subsequently over the last 5 years I've worked very closely with URID, the .EU Registry, and with Giovanni Sepia here. We have developed the annual World Report on Internationalised Domain Names, which is a partnership between URID, UNESCO, and with the assistance of many of the regional country code organisations. I think before we get started, because we're going to spend some time together this week, it would be really good to just go around the room and for you to introduce yourselves and what sort of, not like I've just done too much, so apologies, but just to give your background and why you are on the course and what you're hoping to get out of it. That would be very nice. So shall I start? I'll start with you, Giovanni. Can we go like this?
Thank you, Emily. My name is Giovanni Sepia. I work as an external relations manager at the .EU. URID, the .EU registry operator. We are a very special registry because we are working under contract with the European Commission, the European Union, and we are also a special registry because our contract is limited in time, and every 5 years we have to go through a big process. I'm very happy to be the teacher, the tutor of the next days together with Emily. I've been working in this environment for the past also 16 years, starting with the .it, the Italian registry, and then moving to Centre, ICANN, and then the URID and the .eu registry. Looking forward to working together.
My name is Mohammed Ali. I work here in ITR, the Information Technology Institute. It's a training institute. I hold a PhD degree in the field of computer networking. My aim is to attend this course to help the DNS Entrepreneurship Center to deliver the information of the course to other trainers forward. My main job is the head of Computer Networks and Security Department, and also a trainer for the last 15 years.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Day Asmat. Some of you know me, some do not. I work for ICANN. I've been with ICANN for 9 years. I lead stakeholder engagement in the Middle East. And I'm here today, and I was here also last week for this program. We're having a partnership with NTRA, the National Telecom Regulatory Authority of Egypt, on establishing a DNS Entrepreneurship Center for the region. And we just started last week with the first session of the program. This part of the program focuses mainly on the business and policy aspects of, running domain name registries, registrars, and so forth. So this week we're going to hear from our colleagues from URID. I'm also glad to say that as part of the same initiative in developing capacities in the region, Africa and the Middle East, in this area, we partnered with URID. URID has been supporting ICANN efforts in this area for the past couple of years, and during the last ICANN meeting in Singapore, we agreed to document this sort of relationship. So we put it on paper, and we will continue to work together in this embassy. So welcome to Cairo. I hope you didn't get stuck in traffic for a long time this morning. I must say that it was quite a pleasant traffic this morning. You should expect worse traffic in the coming days. But I hope you enjoy your time. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Hazan Faza. I work here in the League of Arab States for about 4 years now. We should be the registry of the Arab domain, but we didn't start yet, right? We haven't launched it yet, still in the process. I've been working in the IT field for about 20 years now, and recently turned into the internet policy.
Yeah, I'm Abdelmanan Karim from National Clinical Regulatory Research of Egypt, Deputy Manager of Master Registry. My background is ethical. I am a communication engineer and a diploma in computer engineering.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Saif Ahmed. I'm from Iraq. I work in the communication and media commission. I am head of the IQ and Iraq IDN. I come here to know more about the CCTLP marketing and policy that could help developing the .IQ and .Iraq IDN marketing in Iraq. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Ibrahim from Iraq. I'm working like an engineer in the CMC Communication, Media and Commission. I work like this one, IT department, networking, and in monitoring research.
My name is Mukla from the D1. And this is purely the IT section. I'm eager to hear that I used to be in IT, but moved into the domain business about a year ago. I came here to learn more about the policies, anything I can absorb from anybody, any information, any knowledge. And we need to grow our numbers, so I'm very keen on things that will teach us about that, marketing, policies, anything that will make our business grow.
And so which country?
Nigeria.
Nigeria as well.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Morning. My name is Mohsen Sumar. I'm from Tanzania. Basically our company is the leading registrar in the country. So we are here to basically hope to learn something new and how we can grow our numbers. We just have about 10,000 in the whole country, which is domains. So our goal is to at least push it forward 50 to 100,000 over the next few years. Let's see how we can do that.
Yeah.
My name is Nabil Boukhalid. I'm from Lebanon. I'm the head of ISOC Lebanon and the .LB registrar since 1993. We have also a very small number of domains because we're a cross-country registry, but I don't have the same objectives to increase the
You're happy.
We are a free registry.
My name is Manila. I work for the National Telecom Regulatory Authority, Executive Director for International Technical Coordination. And now I mentioned we're partnering with ICANN to establish the DNS issues, and we're hoping that it will trigger the overall DNS industry in both regions, Africa and the Middle East, and we will also help build the overall DNS ecosystem in both regions. I do apologize for starting a little bit late today, and I hope we're going to plan and better starting from tomorrow. So welcome, Kai.
Yeah. My name is Muhammad Salam. I'm from Egypt. I work here in ITI as a system administrator. I have registered for the previous DNS business, so I'm here today to enhance my knowledge as a business.
Thank you.
My name is Yahya Abdul Hakam from Egyptian Universities Network, .EG Registry. Looking to have some knowledge about developing the domain industry in Egypt.
I'm Felix Ndayo from Burundi. I'm working for the .bi registry, and I'm here to hear about some tools or tips to promote our registry.
Well, my name is Farai Magezi. I am from Zimbabwe, working for a public telecom company in Zimbabwe, and then from the IT section, where we do registries and do all networking and all other things in IT.
is Abel Riyad. I work for NTRA, Regulatory of Egypt, and I'm working with the support team of .mas Registry.
Mohammed Salah. I work at the NTRA of Egypt Regulatory as a registry of .mas, the IDN registry for .mas. I've been working in this industry for about 5 years. I'm the operation manager who's operating and running the registry.
Riham Abdallah, I work in ITI. I'm responsible for delivering the courses of network and of Linux and Unix administration in ITI. So I have a technical background.
Excellent. Thank you.
My name is Antoine Yameogo from Burkina Faso. I work for the telecom regulator in Burkina Faso. I focus on system administration and now also in domain name registration.
Is that with the CCTLD or as
Yes, CCTLD.
Thank you.
I'm Paulo Nyirenda. I'm from Malawi. I manage the .mw CCTLD registry. It's located within the university campus of University of Malawi. Here to learn about registry models.
Ma'am, do you want to just introduce yourself?
My name is Dina Barakat. I'm working for the Egyptian Universities Network. It's the .eg registry. It has been .eg since more than 20 years old.
Thank you.
My name is Muhammad Noor, cameraman.
I'm Hassan Nakhal. I'm Hassan Nakhal, working for Telecom Regulatory Authority in Egypt. I'm a senior manager for the net policies, and I'm interested in DNS policies.
My name is Ahmed Yusuf. I work for Djibouti Telecom. I'm a communication manager.
My name is Idris Roble. I'm from Djibouti and I work for Djibouti Telecom, and I'm working for communication skill and marketing.
That's great. Well, welcome, and what a fantastic gathering of people from across the region involved in domain name management, network engineering, communications. I think, well, we seem to have people from .arab, the IQ registry, .eg and .nasra, .ng, .tz, .lb, Zimbabwe, yes, from the registry, .mw. I'm sure I've missed out lots, and there's not Burundi. This is a fantastic gathering, and it
Iraq.
and Iraq, yes. IQ.
IQ.
I'm sure I've missed out some, but actually, I think that this illustrates very well one of the main benefits of these sort of gatherings, which is actually for you to meet each other and to interact, to learn from each other. As there are people in this room with many years of experience in this area, many years, and so I feel a little like this inspires me to hope that our sessions today can be very interactive. I like people to ask questions as they occur to them. Please don't. We're all from different backgrounds, so things that may seem obvious to one person may take a little bit of explaining to somebody else. That's absolutely fine. We're going to be doing 3 sessions today together. The first is an introduction to registry models. Now, I'm sure each of you will have whole sessions where you're thinking, I know this, or I know this more than she does. I'm sure, I'm not a network engineer. I'm going to get that right out on the table. I'm a lawyer by background and a policy person. But hopefully, we've heard that there are quite a few people with an engineering background who come today in order to just sort of take their understanding more into developing into the policy area. This is just these areas are often not as intertwined as they should be. They're extremely closely connected. Things that happen on the technology side do have an impact on policy, and policy has an impact all the way through the operation of a registry. So we're going to do an introductory session until about 11. Then we'll have a break. Now I'm making up the agenda from my memory because I don't have it in front of me. The next one is we're going to talk about changing policies and policy development, really, and then the last session we're going to be talking about internal and external communications, and together we're going to create an operational plan by the end of the day. Okay.
Can I suggest can you circulate the names and contact details of the group, because we're not able to.
Sure.
Yes,
yeah, we can
really
send this by email.
Helpful.
Yeah, we have the list already. We can put the emails in. Sure.
That would be great, Baher. And also, if you want to ask a question, just put your hand up, and if you just keep repeating your name, then that will help me, because of course I've heard everybody's name, but now I've forgotten absolutely everything. So my name is Emily, just to remind you.
And that will help us remember our name.
It will help you remember your names, and everybody else remember your names. Thank you very much. So, this is working. So this session, the introductory session, we're just going to, for many of you this will be very familiar, talk about critical internet resources and the domain name system, what it is, and its significance in the architecture of the internet, and the reason why it has become such a focus for policymakers internationally over the last 15 or so years. We will look a little bit at the different ways that registries are structured, and I should just emphasise that many of us today are from a CCTLD background. That's really going to be the emphasis of this week, and the differences between CCTLDs and GTLDs, the registry structures, the sort of choices that are available, that we do see different versions of throughout the region. And then different examples of different models in action, what the implications of the different models that one adopts are. And then to take us through today, I've created a sort of fictional country from the region, because I think if we focus too much on individual countries, then it becomes very, you feel like, it becomes very personal. And so I wanted to just create a country which I've plonked in the middle of the region in the Red Sea, and it has some characteristics of the region. So we can work on it like on an operation. It will be our patient, and we can develop its policy without actually feeling like we're doing anything in real life. So this will be, I think a lot of you could chant this in your sleep, but what are critical internet resources? Well, the internet is this huge, enormous network comprising everything from pipes and wires at the basic infrastructure level, and going out through that. I don't know if many of you are familiar with this sort of classic hourglass model that's often used to describe the internet, where you have infrastructure that's very physical at the bottom, and then right at the top of this hourglass, a very wide and very complex layer of applications, the sort of things that people do on the internet, whether it's videos or social networks or email or browser or websites, all of these amazing diversity of things that we can do on the internet. But right in the middle of this hourglass is a very, very thin little joiner, and it's extremely simple but completely crucial to keep the internet functioning. And the domain name system is part of that, so is Internet Protocol addressing, numbering. So naming and numbering, they are lightweight, they are globally distributed, and each one has to be unique. Okay? And each one works no matter where you are. It doesn't matter whose network you are. They will work in the ITI here in Egypt, they will work back home in Oxford where I live, they will work in Livorno in Italy where Giovanni lives, and they'll work in Australia. You know, it doesn't matter where you are, whose network you're on, they will just work because each one is unique. And so, if they weren't there, we wouldn't have a single internet. Okay? They are the little lightweight bit of glue that keeps everything loosely connected and makes sure that everybody can get to a predictable destination. So there are various things that are implied. When something has to be unique, then there's an implication for how it is managed. Because if something has to be unique, then it's not okay for everybody to just manage bits of it. You know? Somebody has to manage it and make sure that there is just one version of every domain name, there is just one version of every IP address. And so all of that implies that when you're down here at the individual domain name level, whether it's at Google or Europa.eu for the European Commission, that you go up through the CCTLD and GTLD managers, you go up through IQ or the Malawi CCTLD. Each one of those has a distinct and unique manager, and then above us all as the CCTLD managers is a single route. It's the way it is organised. Nobody enforces this, it's not compulsory, but because the route has evolved just through it being convenient, but it has sustained over a long period of time. Yes, there have been breakaway routes. People have gone, hey, we don't need this, I'm going to do my own one. But they have never got that sort of traction and the widespread adoption that we all rely on today. And it is that single route that holds everything together and makes sure that all of these unique nodes all resolve globally. And as you can see, I'm not sure if the colours are very clear here, but there are two broad systems, which is of course very familiar to many in the room. Over here we have the GTLD space. .Arab will be part of the GTLD space, and the implications of that are that the policy is set through the ICANN process. There is a certain amount of latitude for individual TLDs, perhaps .Arab, to make their own unique policies, but then there are certain consensus policies that come with the environment, like dispute resolution, for example, or WHOIS policy, inter-registrar transfers, very exciting things like that. But over here, the policy is made through ICANN, broadly speaking. Over here, on this side of the chart, this is the country codes. The country codes, there's one per country, and we've heard lots of different country codes this morning. It comprises the two-letter ISO 3166 country codes like .eg that we've heard. It also comprises CCTLD that have started to adopt the IDN equivalent like .masra here in Egypt. And the implications of the CCTLD side of the chart is that you make your own policy. You have independence, and if we all sat around, I'm sure we could spend the rest of the day talking to each other and sharing experiences about what our policies are, how we register, how we are structured, what we do about disputes, if anything, what eligibility criteria, and we're going to talk a little bit about.
Can you take questions?
Yes.
Why is the .eu considered to be a CTLD and not a GTLD?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think I'm going to pass that over to my colleague Giovanni.
So by definition, the CCTLDs are those corresponding to this ISO list, ISO 31666 list. So if you are there, you can ask the delegation of that code corresponding to the country. But there is a very special ISO 3166 list, which is ISO 3166-1 list, which contains some codes that were inserted in the list reserved at some point in time by some institutions or some countries. And so in these, the two most famous cases in this list are .uk, because .uk is also in this special list. So if you go to the ISO 3166 list, .uk is not there. And also .u. And .u, it's funny the way it's there, because we know for sure the body that wanted that code to be there, which is the European Union. Nobody at the European Union reminds nobody why they want it to be there. Because EU, okay, it's the short for the European Union. So you think that, but at the time EU was inserted in that list, there was no European Union, there was a European Community. So nobody had a clue about European Union. So the only thing that was probably the reason why it was inserted there was that EU was the short for euro, which is the currency. That at the time it was inserted in the list, the politicians in the European Community, because at that time was the European Community, they were thinking about one single currency for Europe called euro. And so at that time it could be that EU was the short for euro. And that's why it's there. Then afterwards it became European Union, afterwards it became a TLD, CCTLD.
And I think that's very, I didn't know any of that history actually, but I think it was also something that was, it was very convenient in a way. I think that for the policymakers who wanted to create .eu, to be able to have that policy independence that the CCTLD could bring as well. So I think it worked out very nicely. So this, it's just really the message of these introductory slides, which will be familiar to many of you, particularly the network engineers in the room, is that when you have uniqueness, a requirement for uniqueness and a requirement for universal resolution, then each node has to be managed separately and individually by one manager, and that has to go up into a hierarchy. Otherwise, the uniqueness can't be guaranteed anymore.
The diagram is wrong.
Thank you very much. That was just testing. Okay. So I had a look at registrations by geographic region here, and the code at the bottom is very, very faint. The big chunk at the bottom, so over, we're at about 120, 130 million GTLDs, most of which are .com. And then above that is CCTLDs in Europe and Africa. Europe and North America. Then the greenish thing is Asia and the Pacific. And then there's a kind of yellowy bit at the top, which is Latin America. And then right at the top, if you can see, there's a little green line, and that's the Arab states. So there's a lot of potential in this area. And this is another way of looking at the same thing, the global distribution of where domain names are. This map was put together by the Oxford Internet Institute, and what they did was they took CCTLD registrations, and they also looked at the hosting country of GTLDs. So you can see right away that there are certain areas of the world that are very well provided for in terms of domain name registrations. North America, Europe, Germany is the biggest country code registry in Europe, followed by .uk, and you can also see that here in sort of once we get into East Asia, you're also seeing China figuring quite large as well. But actually, and again, the colours don't really come through in the projection, but the penetration rate in sort of East Asia is very low. It's just that there are so many people there that you end up with quite a large representation of domain names. But of course, if your focus is here on the region, here, Africa and the Middle East, there is an awful lot of potential still to be realised in terms of domain name registrations. And as we heard from the introductions today, some of us are involved in managing the Arabic script country code registries, and this is just a brief reminder of so-called IDNs, internationalized domain names, and these take place at the second level. So we've got sort of paradigma, which means example in Greek.eu. So in a Greek script, you can register your name under .eu, also in Cyrillic script as well under .eu. Now, machines don't speak Greek and they don't speak Arabic, they speak numbers and letters and they speak ASCII. And so there's a conversion that takes place at the level of domain name resolution. So it doesn't mean a lot to a human being, but it does allow for unique resolution of these domain names into the Greek script. And here we have a Cyrillic example which goes through into the top level. .rf in the Russian Federation has been an enormously successful example of internationalized domain names at the top level. But when we look at IDN numbers, now this is quite interesting because in the last year we've seen the launch of new generic top-level domains. So I think 500 now are on the market, and I believe the last time I looked, we have about 4 million. That's a success in the view of the commentator. So in a year, we've created 4 million new GTLD registrations. So it's quite sobering to think that actually in the internationalized domain name sphere, there are more at the moment, more IDNs in the world than there are new GTLD registrations. So if the new GTLD registrations is a success, this is an outstanding success. But we all know these have actually, many have been on the market for over a decade. At the top level, it's been about 4 or 5 years, and still we're only at 2% of the world's domain names are in non-Latin script. So again, this is a story of potential that is yet to be realised fully. Growth rates, particularly when you get the same script right across the domain name, like under .masr or the Arabic script all the way through, the growth rates are much higher than we see in the second level. And then there are now about 50 ASCII TLDs offering sort of accents and different scripts, or in the case of .eu, Greek script and Cyrillic script. And then there are 26 IDNs for 22 countries, because several countries will deploy, according to, like, for example, Sri Lanka does Tamil and it's Devanagari, I think. The Singapore registry also does Chinese script and other scripts to reflect local languages. So there were.
Where do you count the second level IDNs? Under this or under the origin? Under the.
So these are basically in 50 ASCII TLDs. We've got IDNs being offered at the second level. .com, for example, many CCTLDs in Europe. And here, these are the sort of fully IDN. And now we're starting to get into the new GTLD space with .shabaka, .mocha has launched in the region.
So the growth is over the overall?
It's overall, it's looking at everything altogether. IDNs by region. Sorry, the writing on these slides is so tiny. Asia and the Pacific is where we're seeing the most uptake. We're also seeing Europe and North America. Mainly, that is, the Russian Federation has had a very, very successful uptake, but also a lot of the European CCTLDs have quietly been offering Latin script with accents. Like in Germany, they've got about 600,000, for example, and that's been going on for a very long time. And then the kind of brownish stripe at the top is in the GTLDs. There are 1.2 million, for example, in .com of all sorts of different strips with .com. That works well in certain contexts. It works less well where you have different directions, like a right-to-left script and then .com. Not ideal. And then right at the top, we've got Arab states and Latin America with thin lines that are not really that visible. But if we have another look more closely and zoom in on the Arab states, we can see a very nice growth trajectory. It's definitely going in the right direction, and also more and more diversity coming in to the interplay as we see Algeria, Jordan, Qatar, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Iran. This is based, we're looking here at December 2013. .Iran actually launched in the last 12 months, so it would be nice to go and revisit now and see how that's getting on. And Masra in Egypt at the top. It's quite, again, it's quite, sorry?
Iran is not Arabic country.
Sorry?
Iran is not Arabic.
No, it's not. I mean, you're quite right. And in the UNESCO regions, of course, it's Asia and the Pacific in that region. The reason why I have included it in the map is because of its use of the Arabic script, with all the disclaimers that apply. But absolutely right, of course.
So that's the second level IDN of Iran.
The .Iran, yes, and in fact, the .Iran, they launched it. They had about 6,000 registrations, and then it took so long to get all the relevant consents for the .Iran in IDN that they just stopped receiving, they stopped taking any new registrations. So we saw a decline over a time period, and I think that they ended up with about 3,000 or 4,000 by the end. And then I think they migrated them to new domains. So it'll be interesting to see how uptake goes in that. We talked about new GTLDs. This was, I did this screenshot a few days ago, 4.7 million new GTLDs in the last year. And interestingly, the second most popular is an IDN, new GTLD, a Chinese script one. But just a word of warning when you kind of nerd away at the statistics. This is quite a nice site. It's called NTLD Stats, and for anybody who's at all geeky inclined and likes statistics, it's where you can spend many happy hours. There's also a nice indicator for parked domains, which is a very good indicator for likelihood to renew, because what we're seeing in many of the new GTLDs, and this is to be expected in the first year, in a way, is that actual usage is very low. And so and we know from experience that when usage is low, likelihood to renew is also low, because it stands to, it's very human. You renew and you keep what you're using, you throw away what turned out to be not such a great idea.
These statistics are through surveys or they're on online monitoring?
Well, because the part of being in the ICANN GTLD environment is a requirement to open your zone file. So what services like this are doing is that they are gathering the zone file each day, and looking at new registrations, and also looking at whether they've got name servers, I think, and so on. And that's, you know, from a researcher's point of view, that's quite a nice aspect of the GTLD environment. I think from a user's point of view, it's not always so great, but certainly from research, it means that there's a lot more data out there than in the system.
Can you define the term active that you use? And you said those are...
The part domains. So I think that I tend to view active users on a sort of spectrum, really. There's stuff that's a kind of almost a binary question, like, does it have active name servers? And if it doesn't have active name servers, then it's absolutely not in use. And then at the other end of the spectrum, have you got a multi-page website with, you know, lots of services attached, sort of thing. That's clearly in use. And in the middle, you've got sort of grey area. And one of the things that, you know, as I'm sure you know, many providers will just stick up a parking page or some sort of redirect, or not a redirect, but a parking page, and very, very like no real effort has been put into creating that content. And that's, I think, what they're talking about in terms of
there are lots of domains also that are registered where they all point to the same .com or same.
That's right.
So where would that fall? Just to protect the trademark.
Yeah, I would view those as redirects, and it's something that you do see a lot in.
In here they count as active?
I think that they would count as active, yeah, because they are actually providing services. But I view them in a way in a category on their own, because what's clear when you have a redirect is that this isn't the primary domain name. You see it quite a lot in IDNs actually. And often I think it's capitalizing on the memorability of the string. People will put it into a browser, but then it might well redirect to an ASCII site so that you don't get that confusing representation of IDN strings in browsers. So we have also, as I mentioned, .mocha and .shabaka. .shabaka, and apologies in advance. I'm sure that a lot of you will be aware of the difficulty sometimes getting Arabic script to present itself, particularly in Microsoft applications or any application. So apologies if the Arabic script does not appear correctly. But the .shabaka was actually, I think it was the first new GTLD. It launched in November 2014. It has about, sorry? 13. In 13, sorry. Yes, gosh, 2013, isn't it? So it's now come up a year that we should be starting to see the impact of renewals, which haven't yet come through in the statistics yet. And it's now got 2,000 domain names, but I think some of us were at a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Jordan, and we heard a presentation from the .shabaka registry, and they were quite kind of downbeat about it and saying that there's very low usage rates, and they cite problems with low consumer awareness of the fact that you can register in Arabic script, and also problems with usage, universal acceptance, which is for IDN registries something that is a familiar topic. .mocha, again at the same meeting, we heard a very contrasting, a very upbeat presentation from .mocha, which launched just a couple of months ago. They've already got 2,800 names. Very, very happy about how uptake was going, and quite an interesting strategy evident from the registry, in that they have gone for very high profile, significant users. So they were very happy to report that Al Jazeera had adopted .mocha and had actually developed a version of their logo with the .mocha domain name underneath it, was my understanding. There was one site that had 1 million visitors in 24 hours, and that kind of I think that this is a very important issue that we might well come back to during the day, that just having a couple of very popular sites gets it into users' minds that you can actually have domain names in different scripts. Nothing works better than that in a way.
In terms of just knowledge, what do the two TLDs mean? What does Shabaka mean? What does
Shabaka means
network.
Okay.
Shabaka in Arabic means network, Mawqa in Arabic means website.
And the
website.
Okay. Yeah, and actually, the .mocha manager was saying that their market research had revealed they'd chosen the name .mocha because it was the most searched for Arabic term.
Network, is it?
It's a website. Shabaka is network.
Okay.
So Shabaka is like .net and Mawqa is like .website.
.web.
And here we have the example. I think this is the Al Jazeera.
I have the feeling you're not going to use it.
Okay, so this is an example in action of the Arabic domain name in use by Al Jazeera. So, what are our choices in registry structures? I'm just going to remind ourselves of the confusingly similar terminology that we use to describe the different points in the supply chain. I don't know why this happened, but it just does seem to have happened, that everything in the supply chain is called nearly the same thing, and you do hear even very, very seasoned, long-term professionals getting the terms sometimes muddled up. The registry is that node from the diagram, the .eg, .masra, .iq, .arab. And then registrar is the retailer, in a way, if you're thinking in kind of simple terms. These are the people who will also, they might provide registrations in your CCTLD, but they also might provide .com, lots of other domains, and also, importantly, they will provide services that registries don't traditionally provide, like website hosting, development, email forwarding, DNS resolution, and all of these kind of advanced certification, which is becoming a more and more important aspect of the supply chain as well. So they provide your TLD, they will provide other services typically. And then at the end, there is the registrant, and you end up with different names for the registrant, end users, or I think ICANN has developed a very, is it like registered name holder or something like that, which is supposed to completely eliminate all of the confusion.
And it becomes even more confusing when you try to translate it.
Yes, yes. So even worse. But I've just kind of tried to keep in the top corner a little picture of that supply chain so that we're all kind of on track of where everything is. But of course that is the classic supply chain, but in the region and elsewhere you see different versions at play. And here you tend to see a lot of no registrar channel, that the registry will be directly interfacing with customers. And that has some advantages, it definitely has some advantages in terms of complete quality control. That if you are the registry, you can guarantee that your users will have a certain experience, that if you have eligibility criteria that they have to satisfy, you know what you're doing, you actually care about the result, and so you can make sure that things are done properly as they should be. And also that once you have sort of go out into the kind of registrar market, you start to learn that registrars can be very demanding, and they'll be like, why is your EPP not set up completely standardly like everybody else? And they start to kind of, you start to realise that you have to make some changes in order to satisfy your registrars. Well, in this environment, if you don't have the registrar in the middle of yourself and the registrants, you can do what you like, and you can have your setup exactly as you want it. On the converse, because I'm a lawyer by training, so everything has two hands. On the other hand, there are certain disadvantages because you are deprived of that greater distribution that a network of registrars or resellers can give you. Each one of us in this room, if for example, I am the registry in this example, and you're all my registrars, well, each one of you has extensive networks of your own that I don't have. And I can benefit from using your networks and your customer base. If you are already a successful registrar with hundreds of thousands of customers, and I would like you to offer my CCTLD as well, then I can benefit as a registry from your networks. And I think that also there's a sense that once you are sort of ingrained within a kind of retail channel, that it kind of, you have to up your game in a way, and you have to invest in certain standardization. That if you're doing the same, not exactly the same offering, but the technical system, the compliance with standards. I think that registrants also can be very demanding as well as registrars. And if you are interfacing directly with end users, you do need to be able to support them. And they will come back to you and say, well, how do I get my, how do I get my email working, or how do I set up my website? And you find yourself dragged into an awful lot of support type of issues and value-add services that you might not really want to do. You might want to just keep focused. And the evidence suggests that registration numbers do tend to be lower when you have a direct model. Triangle of contracts. This is something that the .uk proudly has. That's part of my heredity, if you like. And that is, it's a sort of hybrid model, typical sort of British kind of approach of, have a bit of this, have a bit of that. And so the idea is that the registry actually contracts directly with the end user, but they also contract with the retail channel, and the retail channel contract with each other. It's a bit confusing, really. No, it's the same. And that there are a lot of advantages because the registry does maintain that complete control over quality of service. It means that by having that direct responsibility from the end user to the registry, you don't have to have the same level of trust in your registrar channel. And it's quite interesting to observe that .uk, until about the last year when it's changed things, has had the lowest accreditation criteria in the world. If any of us wanted to just show up and be a registrar for .uk, you could do it. They didn't really make any checks if you knew what you were doing or recently released from prison or anything. It didn't matter. You could just be a registrar. And that, but the sort of triangle of contracts would protect the registry and registrant from the registrar in a way. And also the registry can continue to do what it likes in terms of technical standards. But I think I'll fail to update the slide here. The advantages for the registry are that you do have a large channel of distribution. So I'm sorry about the slide there, I've confused myself. I think that the disadvantages of this model is that this is not as standardised. And so if you have a large registrar base, they tend to go, well, these other registries that we deal with, they don't do it like this, and they start to demand that you're doing the same thing, and that can be a disadvantage for the registry. Registry, registrar, sorry.
The model that we have in any the model that we have in a registrar, and the registrar can direct access to registry in case if I have a disaster in our registry, all the details of the registrar will be used. So I have to pick another workaround. And also, if the registry having a registrar, so I should split my activity for marketing the domain and for supporting the domain. The other three contact model still now affect my security. So if registrar can access directly my registry.
This
security guys.
Yeah, you've absolutely. This is absolutely an excellent observation, and this is one of the disadvantages of the triangular contract thing, is who has authority to make changes at the registry, and it's actually two people. Disaster. Not always a disaster, but potentially a disaster, because you have a direct obligation to the registrant to comply with their wishes, and if they want to change their details with you, you have to accept. Meanwhile, the registrar has direct access into your registry systems, and so you do in real life come across examples of, like, .uk has an opt-out for whois for privacy reasons, and you have these examples where the registrar will opt their customer out and the registrant will opt back in, and then it goes boom, 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 and they'll both be changing. But it's also a potential security risk as well, because you don't have that single line that, say, the registrar model has here.
There are way out of that way.
Of course there are.
You can tell whenever there is a taxi who is the registrar in that case, if the registrants want to change the requirement, request from him to change the taxi to be himself. So
that's right.
And you close the loop.
You do. You have to close the loop in some way. It's I think it will become very clear through the day that there is no single universal truth or best way of doing anything. That every choice that you make has certain advantages and certain disadvantages as well.
So in that model, does it mean that a registrant is both a customer to the registrar and to the director?
Yeah, and they'll be buying different things actually.
Okay.
So in that triangular contract, in a sort of legal terms, the registrar is acting as a pure agent. They're introducing the two parties, and then they drop out of the contractual picture.
Okay.
But they will have a contract with the registrant for all of those value-add services. Web hosting, email, DNS, that sort of stuff.
And also providing the support.
Also providing the support. Although I don't know if this is your experience as well, that when you are in that triangular circuit, you do find that you're providing support for both. I don't know if that's your experience.
Yes, but I mean, whatever the registrant wants initially has to go to the registrar, and then if the registrar fails, they can fall back on you. But I mean, the number of requests will become very, very low.
Okay, well that's interesting, because the experience in the .uk, which I'm familiar with, was that the registrant support was actually a larger part of the operation.
Because the registrants in the UK are not qualified. But I mean, you can qualify the registrants.
I think so. Okay, that's very true. And also the registrars, with such a diverse registrar base. And these are all choices that we will come back to. So, in the classic registry registrar model, the registrar is the direct contracting party with the registrant, and it's really, this is the kind of the model that has that .eu, for example, follows, that the GTLD space follows. It has become it's become the industry standard, and